Hey, what is up, music makers? K Hart here. Today we're focusing all on B sections. What are they? Why do you need one in your beats? And 5 tips to get you started on making a fire B section. If you like this content, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to see more videos from me, and let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with what is a B section. A B section, also commonly known as a bridge, is basically an alteration or a contrasting section of your beat or your song, and it basically serves to, for lack of a better word, bridge the beginning and the end of your song. And so a normal song would consist of, this is a really simplified version of maybe an intro, a verse, chorus, verse, your bridge, which is going to be the most different part of your song, and it prepares the listener to come back to the chorus, which is usually your main melodic idea, your main loop that you have. And so for beats especially, like if you don't have vocals, this is going to be a great way to add length to your beats without making it repetitive. Because trust me, like if you're just working with a 4 or even an 8-bar loop, like the 10th time someone has heard that, it's going to get real stale. So you need a B section. This is a synthwave style beat. If you want to hear the full song, I'm going to actually post that here. You can click the link up there and listen to it if you'd like. But this is a synthwave song, like I said. And if you don't do synthwave, this is pretty applicable to every other genre as well. So stay tuned and let's get into the 5 tips. Okay, so the first tip is to use some sort of effects or transitions to signal that a change is going to happen in your song. So for this in particular, I have this riser that I downloaded from Splice. And what I did was I actually just reversed it, added some reverb on it, and some panning that I put in using this free plugin called Pancake. And this is what it sounds like. Solo it here. So if you're listening with headphones, you could probably hear it going back and forth, which isn't the most important thing. But I can show you guys real quick how to make just a cool little transition. So let me just insert another audio track. I'll pull up Splice, drop this cymbal crash in here. And so this is what it sounds like without any processing, which honestly would be fine. It's a cymbal hit in itself is pretty much a transition, but we can make it a little bit cooler. Let's just add some stock Ableton stuff. I'm going to add echo on it. I'm not even going to change any of the settings. And then let's add some reverb to it. Change that to high. Maybe up the decay time a little bit. And let's see how it sounds now. Sounds pretty cool. That's a cool transition to use. And the other thing I've done here with my track is for my drums, you'll notice that I have, if I pull up my automation, I have reverb on here that's actually going up. And it's kind of what it does is it's going to wash out my drums as it gets closer to the B section where I actually drop them out. So if you see here, I have my automation set. So let's listen to it from here. And you'll notice that the drums become more and more washed out and they actually become just, lower in volume. And I think that's kind of a cool way to add a transition without actually just lowering the volume as you get closer. Hey, tip number 2 is to drop out certain tracks. This can be 1 or more tracks that you have in your song. And one of my favorite things to do is drop out either the drums and or the bass, because those are usually some of the most repetitive tracks that you have going. And they're not necessarily the most important thing. I usually don't drop out my chords just because that's kind of the backbone of the song. But the drums and the bass are usually going to be the most repetitive things. So it's going to be really noticeable when they just suddenly aren't there anymore and the listener's going to be like, this sounds different. Let's listen. Okay, so tip number 3 is changing your chord progression up or changing your bass line. And in this beat, I've done both of those things. And it just needs to be really subtle. Like, honestly, it's going to make your beat a lot worse if you put a bunch of work in and, like, write a whole different section. Like, it should be pretty similar to what you already have had going, just slightly different, because the listener doesn't want to listen to the same exact thing, but they also are going to be really thrown off if it's just completely different. So if I play this section, these are my main chords that I have here, and this is what they sound like for the majority of the song. And then this is when the B section hits. So it sounds very similar. I've basically just taken my original chord progression and rearranged it a little bit to make it sound just slightly different. And I've done the same thing with my bass line. So if I play, this is my main bass line that I have throughout most of the track. And my B section bass. Again, just make them just a little bit different. It just needs to be something new for the listener to hear. Okay, tip number 4, I didn't actually do in this beat in particular, but it's something that I'll use on a lot of my tracks, is to change the octave. And you can either do that by maybe duplicating your chords and layering them with adding an octave, which is basically just 12 semitones up or down. And so if I take what I already played for you guys, and I'll take all of this, shift it up an octave, and play it now, this is what it sounds like in context with the rest of the song. So putting it up an octave can actually bring more attention to it if that's what you're trying to do. It also, what it can do sometimes, if maybe you have another pad playing to maybe fill out your chords a little bit, if you switch the octaves between the chords and the pad, you can actually clear up some space in your frequencies and maybe add an extra instrument in there, or change something that you wouldn't have been able to change in the rest of your song just by switching the octaves. Just a fun trick to try. Tip number 5 is to add something new that hasn't been in your song before. So for this one, I actually found this percussion loop and added it in. So if we start from here, so this percussion loop down here, I've just added, and then gradually bringing in my other drums. So I bring the kick back in, and I've also changed my snare to a clap instead of the regular snare hit. You start to bring the lead back in with maybe a different melody. And then this is my main lead that I've brought in, which is just an ARP. And what it does is it basically, I changed my chord that I have here with my ARP to match my chords for my B section. And it kind of ties it all back together. And now you can hear that change right there. That's it coming back to the original loop. So I took basically everything that I had in the beginning and added some new stuff, changed some stuff that was already in there slightly, and then it all kind of ties back to the original when your B section is done. Alright guys, there you go, 5 tips for making a cool B section. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, so much appreciated. And if you guys have any tips or tricks that you like to use for your B sections, leave a comment down below. I'd love to read them, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.